We're also going to look at some text functions. And what we might do with text is we get something out of a list. So here's my name out of a list. We might get this on a, so if I do a class list for students, I get a whole list of names, last name, comma, first name. And I want to separate that into a first name and a last name, separate things so that we can use those for other things later. Perhaps sort by first name or sort by last name. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find a separator. So when I look at this logically, I say I have two names, Molendyke, comma, John, and comma is a separator. It's a thing that's going to separate one thing to the other. So in this I'm going to find a comma. So it says find text. I want to find the comma. I put it in text because I know it's letters. Within the text, within the value that we imported. And start number. So if I wanted the second comma or the third comma, that could be something that I'm looking at. But we don't have that value, so I'm there. So what this said is the ninth letter, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the ninth letter was a comma. Okay. You'll find something else about this text. I'm going to say I want the length of it. How many letters are in here? So the length of that says, so the ninth letter is a comma, and it's 14 letters long. So what I want to do to find the first name, I'm actually going to find the last name first. The last name is the left-hand side. So I want to take text, and I want to get the left portion of letters from it. So the left from that text. And how many letters do I want? Well, I want to find the comma. So that's Molendyke, comma. But I actually don't want the column in it. So instead of doing the 9 characters, I'm going to subtract 1. So this will be, I want the left 8 characters. And that'll be the last name. For the first name, it's not going to be the left-hand characters, it's going to be the right-hand characters. So this is going to be the right function. Again, I want to get the right letters from this text. And how many do I want? Well, I want the length minus the comma. So how long it is, so the 14 minus the 9. And again, when I take a look at that, it's tougher to tell here, but there's a little space in front. Because I actually don't want 5, 14 minus 9 is 5. I also want to get rid of that space that's right there inside of the text. So this is how I get the first and last name. And if I take these functions, I can drag them down so that they're all work. Extract Bob Smith, Mary Jones, different lengths of first and last names. And we extract them into the first and last value. The fifth function I'm going to use in text is the mid function. And this is the most general. So this says I want to extract, so I'm going to extract the first name now. So I want to extract text from this text, and it's going to start. Well, where am I going to start the text? Well, I'm going to ignore Molendyke, so I want the John part. So I'm going to take the text, it's going to be the separator plus 1. So I'm going to start on the 10th letter. And how many do I want? Well, here I'm going to take the length of it all minus separator minus 1, just like we had before. So it's a very general sense, and instead of saying left and right, it's going to say mid and give it a starting point and an ending point. Too many letters because I'm starting the wrong spot. Okay. And this value comes down the same way. Now, just a warning is sometimes text looks like it's only 5 letters, but it's not. And so if we do the length, here I'll do the length again, equals the length of that text. We'd say hello has 5 letters. But this hello has 15, because it's really tough to tell, but there are 5 letters in front of it and 5 letters behind it, spaces, which we aren't able to see. So what I want to do is I actually want to trim it. So what trim does is it's going to get rid of letters on the front and the back. So I'm going to trim this text and it's going to say hello. And I'm going to trim this text, and it's also going to say hello. So those are trimmed to be just 5 letters. And if I take the length, oops, the length of this, it's 5, and the length of that is also 5 because I've trimmed the spaces at the beginning and the end. Last thing we'll do is I want to make a statement that says I want to add text together. So I might not want to have a number. I might want to not say something like the payment is $324 every month, because that's kind of ugly and got spaces in it. What I can do is I can concatenate. So what concatenate does is it says, if I said first and last, I can say concatenate this and that. It puts those two words together. It takes a text. Before we were separating it, now we're putting it together. So in our example here, I want to put 324 in the middle. So we can say concatenate the payment is, and put a space because I want to have a space from that in a number. Actually, I won't even have a $sign in there. So I'm going to take that text and the value from a cell, some data that's going to change, and space every month. What that's going to do is it's going to take the text that says the payment is, it's going to take this text, the payment is, $sign, the value in a cell, and then some text afterwards, and it's going to put it all together in one thing. So this is a function that does concatenation. We can also use an operator that does it. It looks pretty much the same. The payment is $sign. And then I use the ampersand, shift 7, the and sign. Again, choose a number. And, so that's the concatenation operator, every month. It's going to get 4 exclamation marks. Okay? And so that's a function that uses the ampersand as a text add function. Takes text, adds more text onto the end of it, and we get pretty much the same result. What we're going to do is we're going to take all these functions together, we're going to create an invoice. So an invoice usually has some data at the front, it's a customer invoice, date, when it's going to happen, location, and we have some parts with a description and unit costs, quantities, and we want to fill out the rest that's automated. So we're going to automate everything else inside of this invoice. So the first thing we're going to automate is the date. I hate typing in dates because the format isn't there, but I have this wonderful function that says today. And that goes and it pulls out the current date of what we're looking at. Down the rest of our invoice, we're going to say the amount that we have here is going to be, actually I'm going to add another column. This is going to be the cost, okay, which is just the quantity times the unit cost. So it's going to cost $38.25 for 850 units of that. And we drag this down. And we probably want this as 2 decimal places because it's money. The tax, we're going to charge our 12% tax rate on that. This is our cost times 12%. Okay. And our total is just going to be this plus that. So our total is there. What we're going to do now is we're going to drag that down so that it's in every value inside of that column. Now our subtotal. This is going to be the sum of, well, all of our costs. The tax is going to be the sum of all of these. And the total is going to be the sum of all of those. Okay? And just as a check, I can say it's also that plus that. That should work. Okay, we don't need to do that. All right, so we have a little invoice here. So if we actually change the value here to be 550 units, you would change the price and it would change the total and everything would be done automatically. Now let's delete those for right now. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go back to our 850 units. All right, and I also have a little automated thing at the bottom here. I'm going to say if, so I'm going to say if the amount, I'm going to calculate some things here first. I'm going to say if this amount is greater than $5,000, we can finance it. And if we finance it, we can finance it at, let's say, 15% per year paid monthly. So I want to calculate some payments. So I'm going to say if, so I'm going to say the payment is rate, so I said 15% per year paid monthly. Number of payments is going to be, we're going to do it over a year, 12 months. The present value is the total. I'm going to put a negative in front of it so I get a positive value coming out. And the future value is 0. So this is going to be a $531 a month invoice. I'm actually going to move this down a little bit. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to insert cells, I'm going to shift them down because I want it out of the way of everything else. So what I want to do is I want to make a little line here at the bottom. And it's going to say, first of all, I'm just going to do the calculation. Say if the total is greater than $5,000. So now that says if it's more than $5,000, I can actually finance it. If it is, then the value if true is going to be this. And if it's false, I don't want to show anything. So I'm going to just put an empty quote. So here it's putting in a dollar amount. If my invoice was smaller, there's no amount there that it puts in because it's no longer the $5,000 that's required to make this work. Well, this number here on its own doesn't really show anything, so I'm going to do, first of all, a couple things to it. I want this to be 2 decimal places. So first of all, I'm going to do the round function. I want to round this to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to round the value to 2 decimal places, and at least it looks prettier. Second thing we're going to do is we're actually going to do the concatenation around it. So it makes it look pretty. So if it's greater than 5,000, I want the stuff to happen, but I want to put some text. And so I say, this invoice may be financed for 1 year as monthly payments of, I put a dollar sign in there, and whatever happened to the row. As, let's see, payments of, and I'll do another concatenation, and per month. Okay. So this invoice may be financed for 1 year as fix it dollar sign payments per month. Okay. So some text that shows up. Again, if we now have this as 200 units, it's less than 5,000, so we don't have the financing option. And if we have 850 units, it does show up as an option, and so the finance is there.